Hello and welcome back to the next part, and this time we're going to dive into the dates table in Power BI. Now, the idea is that we import a separate table which only contains dates. So why is that? Well, the main point in Power BI is when we want to use DAX calculations based on time, so they are so-called time intelligence functions in DAX. When we want to use them to calculate, let's say, the same period sales for the last year, or let's say the sales up to a specific date during this year. So it's cumulative sales or total year-to-date sales, anything like that. So time-related things. We need to have a dates table in Power BI. This is best practice to have a separate dates table beside the table we have inside here. Because here we can see that we have an order date for all our sales. This is true, but what we can't make sure is that this order date table contains unique date fields and also order date fields. That means that what we want to have is we want to have one specific column in our data model, which has all the dates for, in this case, our whole sales period, which contains of 3 years, and all the dates must be unique. So we want to have a table which has simply the first date of January 2019 up to the end of 2021, so the 31st of December 2021. This is what we want to have for our data here. And we can't make sure that this table exists already in the model. Because for the order date here, for instance, of course, we hopefully have sales on the same date, several sales, right? So more than one product was ordered. And also maybe there are certain kinds of dates during this period here where for whatever reason we do not create any sales. So that is why we do not want to rely only on the order date here. What we want to have instead is we want to have a separate dates table. Now, how can we create this dates table? Also, lucky you, there's also something provided for you, which looks, the first time you take a look at it, quite difficult. So I already opened this in the texture, in this editor here, and this is actually the code we're gonna use. And by the way, don't worry if you do not understand it immediately. What this basically is, it is M code. Now M is a separate language, not DAX, it's not DAX, it's a separate language in Power BI, which is referring to the language used in the Power Query editor. That means that here all the transformations we can use here. What's happening under the hood is that Power Query transforms the transformation we do here with the interface into M code, which then gets applied to your data source. And instead of writing this manually here for our dates table, I already prepared something here for you. This is the dates table code we're going to use. And you do not need to understand it. You can use this code for all your projects in the future. So all you do is you simply select everything, Control-C to copy it, and then you go back to the query editor. And here we have the option to, under Home, here go to New Source. If you click on this, you see a window which is kind of similar to the one we have in the Power Query desktop, right? Power BI desktop, sorry. Which is, here we can select the data source. And for the dates table, what we want is, we want to click on Blank Query here, click on Blank Query, and then choose the Advanced Editor. Click on Advanced Editor here, and remove everything which is inside. So we have a complete blank query here. And now you simply paste the dates table query we have, right? So all the M code. And what this code does for you, under the hood, it simply creates a dates table, and in this case it creates a function which allows us to create a dates table with various different kinds of columns. So you see that there are no syntax errors have been detected, so it's totally fine. Fair enough. And now all we need to do is we click on Done. So if you click on Done here, you see that now a new query appears, and it has this interface. And this interface now allows us to specify here what we want. You can also see that fx symbol here, it's simply referring to the fact that this is a function. So the dates table we have here, all this code creates a function in Power BI, in this case in the query editor, which we can use then to create our dates table. So here, for instance, we can say a start date, and since in my case I have data for 2019 to 2021, I simply say I want to start in January the 1st, 2019. And my end date will be the 31st of December in 2021 in my case. And then I can also specify a financial year start month. So let's say I'm starting in January, so I put in a 1 here. By the way, because there are certain companies which financial year starts maybe in April or maybe in July, right? So then you would have to specify a 4 or a 7, depending on where you start or when your financial year starts. But for me now, let's type in a 1 here. And then, by the way, you also can specify, in case you have a table which contains specific dates which are related to holiday, you can also import this table and then choose specific holidays if you want. to mark them as holidays in the dates table. For us now, I don't have a holidays table, so we leave it the way it is. Simply specify the start date, the end date, and the financial year start month. And then what we do is we simply invoke the function. You click on invoke, and what you get here is the invoke function, which contains here of a complete new dates table with a lot of columns already prepared for you. You can see the first one is the date, and this is the most important column in the whole dates table, because this is actually now here a unique list of dates starting from the 1st of January 2019 to the last day of 2021. And each day is only appearing one time here. Okay, it's a unique list. That's important. And this is the most important column in our dates table. But the other columns are also interesting for us. For instance, we have here the year, which is related to the date, the quarter of the year, the month of the year, day of year. And if you scroll to the right, you find a lot of different options and other things which you can use then, for instance, to filter and slice your report. So here, for instance, is it here fiscal period? Is it a working day? So you can specify this one here and use this column, for instance, to filter the data which in your sales table, which is only related to working days, right? Also interesting. Holidays are known simply because we didn't specify that in the table. But you can see there are a lot of interesting columns here which we can use then later in our report. The only last thing I like to do here is I can simply go to the name of the invoked function and I simply name this table date. And I press enter, and now you can see I have my date table here. And because I want to use this in my model, I can also drag this up there, right, into here, in this one. So that's totally fine. And that's actually it, right? So that's all you need to do. So don't worry if you do not understand this completely. Also, if you do not want to learn M, that's also, even though M is a great language and you can do a lot of it, but it's not that important right now. The important thing is if you want to reuse this specific here function, which gets created by this specific and longer formula, you can always use this in all the other files you have. So you can download this from the resource section and then take it to your own notes and reuse it whenever you want it, right? Because this can be applied to all your future Power BI reports. So that's it. Let me actually close this, and basically we are done with the date itself as well. And that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Until then, best guys.